All this meeting in order so we can hear the chief's report first off the bat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council, for having me this evening. I figured I'd go through this agenda here for the calls for service fairly quickly. Did anybody have any questions about any of the calls for service? Community engagements, you can see we were pretty busy this past.
I'm sorry, just to say that I'm so sorry to see that.
That suicide?
That's just
Yeah, that was a friend of mine actually, and she had a history of some problems with depression and things like that. And I thought she was doing really well after she disappeared from public view for a couple of years. And then she saw her at the farmer's market in the spring, and she was there kind of regularly, and we talked and chatted, and then found out she evidently hadn't got into a depression again. So
I'm just going to acknowledge, I mean, it's a very sad thing to see, and just I thank you, Chief, for what you do. And I didn't know those details, Mr. Mayor, but whatever we can do to help people in need, and I know you guys do a lot of great stuff, so thank you.
Her husband is a frequent person down here in the town.
yeah.
So maybe after the meeting, we'll tell you who it would be.
Oh, yeah.
He does a lot of good things for the community.
He does. Our community events, you can see that we continue to be engaged in our town and our community, our schools. One of the things that I really wanted to touch on was the Scottsville Baptist Church Pastor Gowan up here at the top of the hill. He approached me right before, I guess it was a couple months before Halloween, and talked about how he wanted to contribute to the police department of the town. And we come up with this idea of the child ID kit. So not only were we handing out candy and treats Halloween night, but we were able to hand out, we had 500. We probably gave out 300 or just a little over 300 child ID kits to parents and guardians that night as well. So that was a huge success. Our auxiliary officers donated 48 hours of their time this past month. And
Chief, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Sure.
Do you mind just for the record, tell people what does a child ID kit consist of?
well, these kits actually had cards where you could actually roll the child's fingerprints on the card, and it actually had bucket swabs where you could take a DNA sample for the parents to keep in case the child would ever go missing or anything tragic would happen.
Okay.
And they needed that information, law enforcement did, so
Okay.
that's what they used for.
Okay.
We brought on one more auxiliary police officer, Nicholas Petrowski. It's Officer Petrowski's son. He went through the background process, was recommended to me, got him sworn in by the circuit court clerk in October. And now he is completing all of the DCJS training that's required of him before, he could be out on the street doing anything with us, but he's in training. Young man works as a flight medic at UVA on Pegasus.
Wow.
Very, very intelligent young man. So really happy to have him and his qualifications down here with us in the town. I think he's going to be a great asset for us. Let's see, and then you can see we finally got our message board marked up, and we were able to deploy it for Halloween, put a Halloween message on there for folks to drive safe coming into the town due to the trick-or-treaters. And now we have it deployed there with a driver safety message, speed limit 25, strictly enforced, those type of things. So I think, James, we're going to deploy it the week before the 7th for holiday happenings. So you can kind of get an idea of what it looks like.
I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Nice and bright, easy to see.
Easy to see, easy to set up too, really.
Really? That's good.
I talked to, we can move it wherever we have permission to. Walker gave us permission there. because it truly has helped slow down cars coming into that.
It's
curve.
really visible.
Mhm. But I think we're gonna put it up on the hillside there at 6 and,
Yeah,
Wow.
across from the Dollar General there, so catch people coming north, south, going up 6, everything.
so we can move it wherever we need it to move. It's pretty small, it's very easy
Yeah.
to tug behind the truck, so. Let's see, Mr. Payne, I think I missed your announcement on that police vehicle, but I wanted to publicly thank you for all of the work that you and the Scottsville Rescue Squad board, the old board, did to work with me and the police department on donating, getting a huge donation together for a new police vehicle for the Scottsville PD and equipment and stuff. That is a huge shot in the arm. I thanked two of the other members, and I wanted to publicly thank you for making that a reality for us. The only thing that I wanted to talk about is Mr. Payne and I have talked, and that vehicle has been ordered. Probably 4 to maybe 6, 8 months. Don't know exactly, but they had to actually order the vehicle to come in. I've also got the quote for the build of the vehicle as well. That's all of the equipment inside. And we've got a dollar figure. Mr. Payne has got the dollar figure, but I guess what I just want to make sure that I'm clear on, if the vehicle comes in before the donation hits the foundation, how do we deal with that?
And I've got no timeline on that. We speaking as the board of directors, want to finish this up as soon as we can. I'm still not sure if the judge has finalized everything. The rules is in favor of the squad. That's no problem, but he's got to sign off. And some of the assets are not as liquid as we'd like them to be, i.e. CDs that need to go through a receptacle, so I don't know exactly cash amount, for example, that we have in the bank. But anyway, I hope to finalize that with the other 5 numbers pretty soon.
So again, my question is, if that truck were to come in, that vehicle were to come in 2 months, and all of that hasn't happened there, how do we deal with that vehicle that we've ordered? And we don't have funds in the foundation at this point to go down and pick the vehicle up. Do we hope that the dealership just holds it for us?
As long as the rescue squad is post judgment, and if you're waiting for something, I think it would be appropriate to maybe use our reserves as treat it like a grant almost, that would be paid back.
Yeah, it's just a pass through and then a
I think it's an
payback.
opportunity to get
Yeah,
a police vehicle.
that's what I would recommend. I'd hate to lose the opportunity.
We
you
were
know,
able to
and
get
just
the
because the
vehicle.
timing doesn't work out.
Well, I wasn't sure, and I certainly wasn't going to speak for this council on how you all wanted me to proceed. We actually got the vehicle for $48,805, and it was below state contract. I know we have to go to South Carolina to pick it up, but much like the other vehicle that we just put in service, this past year, we got it below state contract price.
That's great.
So it saved us a lot of money in the end. One of my officers and I will just drive down, we'll pick it up and bring it back, and I've got a quote for the build of the vehicle as well. Now that had gone up obviously since the last time we had done it. So I think we were right at about $76,000 for a new vehicle, the equipment. And I know Javier and I have talked about, you know, a CIP and the town moving forward with CIP on timelines years out, 5, 6 years on preparing for those next vehicles.
Right.
Because I don't see this happening again, do you?
Not this sort of simple.
I just don't. And I will say that once this vehicle is put in service, you know, we will take the one that I'm driving now and we'll decommission it, and it'll go to the town's maintenance person.
That's great.
So
idea.
that kind of kills two birds with one stone. Police department, a vehicle, town maintenance, a good quality vehicle. And hopefully we can keep that tradition moving
Yeah.
forward with the town and we don't have to think about vehicles like that.
That's great.
Why
That's
don't we,
good thinking.
why don't you and Mr. Payne and Javier try to get your heads together this coming week? And then have some sort of proposal the council can vote on next Monday
Okay.
as a way to make this happen.
And I'll get in touch with, a couple of members of the board. And then just to see where we are, because we've been a little silent for the last 2 weeks, and, I don't know what role it is,
Probably the police.
always.
But I don't see this happening again for us.
Right.
And once this happens, our fleet for the police department will be in pretty good shape.
And it gives them a little breathing room
Yes,
for
sir.
the next.
Gives us a little breathing room for the next, right? So I'll put a memorandum together, if that's okay, and I'll present it to you and Javier, and then it'll be something. Did you want me to come this Monday, come and present it, or would you like to present it, Mr. Payne, or how would you all like to do that?
Whatever,
We should come up with a plan, put it on the agenda, and then let Eddie explain how it's gonna work.
Okay.
Does that work?
whatever timing works for you guys.
Okay.
Because I just need to know to include, if I should include it on the agenda.
Jim should probably be forward into this one as well.
Yeah.
Sounds good, but thank you.
Well, it was just an idea, that's all.
Well, it was a great idea and it certainly worked out. We were able to talk to the right people in the right positions that absolutely made it happen, and I can't thank you enough. I've told the other three that the other two members that I know as well, couldn't have done it without the three of you for sure.
That's just, donations that the citizens made, now coming back to them,
Understood.
We got that part of it, right?
Understood.
Well, bravo, Eddie.
The other thing I really wanted to touch on, was the, flock safety cameras. And I'll just give you a high level, idea of what flock safety is. Flock safety is a LPR system. It's a license plate reader system. And I got communicated with from the flock safety, a couple of weeks ago. And the man that was, in communication with me deals with smaller police departments and sheriff's offices. Like he said, a lot of times the smaller agencies get left behind in these bigger projects. If you all remember back last year, and then Charlottesville PD just implemented flock safety in the city of Charlottesville. And taken it to his council, public comment. They've implemented on a 12-month trial basis to see how the data is being used and those type of things. Basically, what we've done so far is look at the town of Scottsville and try to designate 3 to 4 locations in the town of Scottsville that these LPR cameras would most benefit us as a force multiplier and help safety wise in the town of Scottsville. 2 being down here at the police department. 1 up on Irish Road. And once I get some direction from you all, I will reach out to the private places, and I didn't want to announce it yet until I've had a chance to talk to them. And then maybe another location up around James River Road at Valley Street. But I told him the way this system would be paid for is through a grant through the Virginia State Police. It's $12,500 per year. And it would enable us, the town, 3 to 4 of these LPR cameras in the town per year. It would be purchase up front, reimbursed by the state police heat program on the backside. It's, from what I can understand, is a pretty quick turnaround as far as approval of the grant. And then once we submit the invoice for purchase, then the state police sends us the check, the town back the check. So it's a pretty fast turnaround on the monies. The system cameras are deployed, system takes photographs of license plates, right? That are coming in and out of the town of Scottsville. And the only time an officer gets alerted to the system, through the system, is if there is an Amber Alert. Vehicle comes through the town of Scottsville and there's an Amber Alert put on the vehicle, officers would get a notification. If it's a stolen vehicle, we would be able to enter that information into the system. It would go out nationwide. In the state of Virginia, there's 120 couple police departments now that have flock safety and utilize them. Once we would enter data into the system, and it has to be a criminal case, it can't just be willy-nilly, it can't be for just anything. It has to be a case number associated with the information and vice versa. Before we would ever get an alert on a stolen vehicle or an Amber Alert vehicle or a homicide vehicle coming through the town of Scottsville, it would be headed our way, and then we would get that alert on that specific vehicle. So it's not like an officer can sit at their computer and search data in the system. It doesn't work that way. The only information that they could search is information related to a vehicle that's coming into the town of Scottsville. And it has to have been created by a police report, a police agency, and a criminal case. So I told him that I would get back with him. I didn't want to do or say anything more. I haven't contacted the state police. I suspect that they would still have the money as of last week. He said they did. Didn't know what your all's feelings were on something like this. So I wasn't going to move forward anymore before I talked to you all.
Well, if if it's gonna be paid for by somebody else, certainly, I happen to see the video of the guy explaining how this thing works. And
Okay.
it really works good in low light. I mean, it can be practically pitch black and it can read a license plate. It's amazing. And like you say, it only sounds off if this license plate's connected to some sort of felony activity. If you can research and just maybe next week give us a brief report of what the state says about reimbursement and, the exact figures or close to the exact figures, and make sure that we can get all of that back.
It's for sure 12.5,
Okay.
100%.
Yeah.
12.5 per year, and their budget cycle ends and starts in May is when it ends, for sure. The only information I don't have from the state police is, are there still funds today available? And submitting the application for the grant. And I didn't want any of that, so Mayor, I
So
would,
the 12.5 is for the cameras and renting them for a year.
they manage the whole system, everything,
But
it's
then
all.
next year you need another 12.5 or something.
So the way he was telling me this year, if I applied right now, that I would get 12.5, and then in May of 2025, the funding would be available again, but he says, I'm fearful that because we're in the 24-25 budget, when the new budget cycle starts in 25, they might say, you already got it. So I wouldn't, me personally, I think it's bad business. I wouldn't want to implement now. I would want to wait until we got towards the May timeframe. So we were guaranteed that 12.5 implement, and then we were guaranteed the following year, right? I'm just afraid implement now in this 2024,
Right.
24-25 budget. And they said, oh, well, you've already got your 12.5.
Right.
And then we're hung out there, and I would rather play it on the safe side and conservative side and say, let's wait until we get closer to the May budget cycle and implement then. That would be my recommendation.
Why don't you just find out as much as you can, and then next month's work session, you can give a full presentation on what you feel is
Okay.
best.
Sounds
It
wonderful.
gives you a month to work on it.
And Chief, from the perspective of solving crime, what if this is implemented and it's this time next, it's fully in function, what crime will you be able to stop or see? Is it basically, what, if I hear what you're saying, to some level, if people coming from other areas traveling through, or maybe somebody who's here that's done something somewhere else. So to what level do you think that will help you?
I think it is a force multiplier. You know, we've only got limited resources in the town, right? And, you know, we don't get a lot of information shared to us from the other jurisdictions about vehicles that are wanted for other crime. This system, if they're entered into the system, we would get those notifications right away. I think Ms. Morris and I were talking before the meeting that this past year, we've had, what, 5 total stolen vehicles in the town. We've been fortunate to be able to get them all back. But what we would be able to do is enter that information into the system. It goes out to all the other jurisdictions. So let's say the vehicle left the town of Scottsville and got into the city of Charlottesville. That vehicle pops up on one of their LPRs. It's going to alert us that that vehicle was in the city of Charlottesville at this time and is on Lee Street and whatever street right now. So we could alert Charlottesville, hey, we've got a stolen vehicle. It's located here. Could you go by and see, and hopefully get the suspect still in the vehicle, recover the victim's property. Amber alerts, they're always coming out. Senior alerts, silver alerts, always coming out for us to be on the lookout for that type of information. We've had a couple this year of the senior alerts here in the town, but by the time we got the information, they'd already gone through. So those type of things it would help us with. I don't know if I can quantify at this point, tell you how many. I just know we have had, you know, the Amber alerts, the senior alerts, and the stolen vehicles this year, that it may have been helpful to have.
Thank you. Well, first of all, thank you, but just to plead a little bit of ignorance. What is the silver alert and what is the senior alert?
Senior.
You go out for a walk and at our age, if I go out for a walk. And I don't show up to cook dinner.
And it's all based on age,
Right.
middle cognitive.
So missing senior, okay, is it silver similar to that?
Yeah, but we're all getting silver.
Except for you.
Okay, towns, we can how effective they are, I mean, small towns, just to kind of read this reference. The other thing you have to have it, I'm just.
We got them right here.
Okay, oh, good. Well, the other thing I was wondering is it required to do this on public property? In other words, can one of these be installed at the shopping center, because that seems to be the place where there's more crime?
Well,
Can you use a private area like that?
different type of LPR.
Okay.
So this type of license plate reader is a stationary license plate reader. So our goal would be trying to catch as many license plates coming in and out of the town as we possibly could.
Okay.
I was telling Ms. Morris that Albemarle is actually in the process of deploying, I think the sergeant was telling me 6 to 8 mobile LPRs on patrol cars.
Oh,
So those have drawbacks as well, because you're only getting the tags that the patrol cars pass or passing by the patrol car. Patrol car can go into the parking lot, right? And it's scanning all of those vehicles that are
okay.
in there. Now, the ones that I'm proposing through flag safety would actually be stationary. Yes.
Could put it in like 9%.
Any private property, we have to get permissions.
Okay, that's all.
And I've got a couple places in mind, and you would talk about silver and so that it all depends on medications, cognitive abilities of the elder or the senior. The elder alert used to be, had to meet certain criteria, right? By the state police before you could enter a person in the system on an elder alert, right? So what they did is they backed some of that down, the requirements down, to say now they call it a silver alert, where the person may just have the onset of dementia or something, you know, minor, that wouldn't necessarily rise to the level of an elder alert. But you want to get the person in the system so police and law enforcement can be looking to help bring the person back home safely. Same way with the kids, you know, they've kind of tweaked the system somewhat to help us be able to get those people into the national database for a broader reach on helping try to find them. That's really the explanation by the elder and silver, and they just differentiate it in those different ways.
Thank you for that explanation.
Let me ask you, the shooting we had at Lucky, you know, the young lady that got hit in the leg, I
Yes,
guess
sir.
it was. Okay, that car drove by, and of course, she was shot. And the private cameras picked it up, but at the time, you didn't have the ones you have now.
Right.
Okay, so, but you know what you got with private cameras, there wasn't much.
Right.
But had you, this system wouldn't help 10 or 15 minutes down the road. However, if you were able to match that license plate, the next time that vehicle came through town, you would be alerted.
And I think, Mr.
But you would have to file.
put the data in the report. So not, we didn't have a license plate of that car, right?
Yeah.
But we did have a description of a probable car. So even after the fact, once we filed the report, we would be able to put in there the description of a vehicle that we were given by witnesses and things like that. And if that type of vehicle went through one of those LPRs, it would let us know that, hey, there were 15 cars that matched that description that went through at that time or that time or that, you know what I mean? So it would help us
More
narrow
than license plate number.
Mhm.
Okay.
vehicle descriptions, everything,
Okay.
colors of cars, the whole 9 yards.
Assuming that the grant for this vehicle goes through and we said, chief, here's $12,500. Is this what you would spend it on?
The camera, I think this camera system is a good tool for the town.
What's your judgment?
I think it's gonna help us. I think most jurisdictions, a lot of jurisdictions are doing this type of proactive work in their jurisdictions. I think it'll only benefit us. I just wasn't sure how council felt about privacy issues.
That's just a question. Did communities ever put a sign out and say license plate reader ahead? You don't give them, you know, like you might have to, we got a dog, and I have a dog. Had that, would that deter people from whatever?
I don't know. I don't know any jurisdiction that makes that type of announcement.
I think chief, one thing I would say, I mean, obviously, I mean, it is. There's two trends you might say that are counter to each other. One trend is nationally, there's less support for people who do what you do, and thankfully, I hope you always know you're greatly supported here.
I do.
And we appreciate all that you and your officers do. At the same time, people do like their privacy, which is correct. I think one of the things, if I would say this publicly, I would want to err on your safety. In other words, and I think I'm not the only one, we would all want you to be safe, and we would all want your officers to be safe. So there's two sides to law enforcement. One is being able to create a safe environment for people to live and to make sure our community is safe. And the other one at the same time that we keep our officers safe.
Mhm.
And I would ask you, would this help keep you safer?
So I had a resident of the town ask me about this just the other day. My sole goal is absolutely to keep our community here safe. And to make sure that my officers are safe every day that they go out here and work the streets. I think this system can only help us. Keep people that are doing bad things from coming into our town and doing these things. And if they know that we have these type of tools available to us and we use them, and their chances of getting caught coming to Scottsville are great. They're going to stay out of the town. And if that's the case, then we've done our job. Keeping our community safe is what you all have charged me to do as your chief of police, and that's one of my priorities. I want to make sure that I communicate with our residents and our businesses as transparent as I can be about what we're doing. And hopefully, if people have questions about what we're doing, I can answer them in an intelligent way. But it's truly all about safety. And again, that force multiplier for us. We're a small police department, but I think I wouldn't bring it to you if I didn't think it could help us
Well, thank
and
you
help
for-
us keep us safe.
Well, thank you for clarifying. Well, I've said it before and I will say it again. I think the mayor and I have an advantage of having been in these meetings for, I don't know if it's an advantage or a disadvantage, but having been in these meetings for 10 years. And I will say, we've had some good chiefs before, but nobody's done a better job than you have. And I think any way that we can support you. So I mean, I think this is a great idea to help support you, and it's both creative in terms of its funding, and it's also innovative in a way to think about, use it to, again, protect the town and protect yourselves.
Well, and I think because it's renewable on a yearly basis, we can look at this as year one as a pilot, right? And data gathering, and look how much value that the chief feels his officers are getting from it, how many things have been caught through it and whatnot. And then you can decide as a council if you want to continue that or not.
That be part of this.
Be worth a public forum on as well.
So, Mayor, how did you, what did you want me to try to bring up the next work
Use the
session?
next month, next 4 weeks to gather all the information you can and formalize what you think is the best approach. As
Okay.
far as do it now, wait till May, bring back all that back to the work session next month. And then if it's something we can put on the agenda for the December council meeting, we will. If we need to look at it further, we look at it further.
And we don't lose any opportunity by delaying that, do we, chief? Like, I think you said the money is available now.
There are monies available still right now, but I'd
Okay,
want.
but you want to wait till May to do that?
What I don't want to, and the vendor was very honest, that's why I like the guy. I feel he was being very honest with me when he was saying, if you get the 12.5 now and implement now.
Right,
And after May of 25, they may say, well, you've already got 12.5, you may
Right.
not be eligible again.
right.
So keeping that in the back of my mind, I want to make sure, number one, that I have all the information that you're all looking for before I go ahead. I will call the state police and I will ask them, is it available?
We want to get a full year for our 12.5.
Exactly,
Amen.
exactly,
I don't want to cut the town short by a year
right.
because we'd already got one, because someone wants to be hasty in doing an implementation process. I want to make sure that if we're going to implement, that we do it the right way. And
To the most benefit of the team.
to the most benefit of this council in our town.
Okay,
Okay, so I will prepare something in a little bit more detail.
That'd be
For
fine,
next
and
work
then we
session.
can decide where we want to move further or vote to tell you to go ahead and do it.
Okay, sounds good, Mayor. Yes, sir. Any other questions for me?
We appreciate it, like Diane said, we all appreciate all you do.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much. James, you got a report for the chamber?
Short one, not a whole lot of change since last time. We had our more recent meeting was on election day. And so we have that was part of me where we formalized officers. The dinner meeting we had, we voted in the board of directors, and board of directors voted on the officers. So that was done. And all officers staying the same for 1 more year, so everybody that you know stayed the same. And our biggest thing coming up is holiday happenings on the 7th of December. We have decided to move forward with a TV commercial on NBC 29, played during the morning, evening news and so forth. Meeting with the folks down here at NBC 29 folks on Thursday to shoot some footage of the town itself. Of course, they had some generic footage of like bouncy houses and petting zoos and stuff that they can use, but anyway, just wanted to alert you to that matter. And I think those are the main highlights. So in order to raise funds for the commercial, it was a little pricey. We're asked for sponsors, and we didn't want to fill up the whole end of the commercial with 19 page of sponsors, so we limited it to 7. And I think they're pretty much all filled, so
Wow.
so the commercial is pretty much paid for, and as far as verbal commitments. And so we're moving forward with that, even if it doesn't get people down here for holiday happening, it still gets people thinking about Scottsville and maybe coming into in the future. Scan's one of the sponsors there for the commercials, so thank you, Stevie, and several others throughout town.
Sweet.
Just a quick question, because I have a tour on the camera system there. Out of curiosity, say there was a stolen vehicle and you narrowed it down, it was stolen at midnight or something. You got it into the system or as a report, could you go back and say, well, let's check the cameras at 12:10 to see if we drove through town to see what direction?
I think it's gonna be able to capture that information as soon as it's entered into the system. If it passed by one of those LPRs on the way out.
Yeah, you could look back in time from when you entered it. I think that's a great feature.
Could you just really briefly just tell us what holiday happens is and when does we get it in and where does it take place and what does it entail?
Yeah, thank you. So December 7th is Saturday. We're gonna have the holiday, we're calling it holiday market since the farmer's market time has passed. So that'll be down at the pavilion. Scan is pretty known. I don't know if you've been there before, but they have a art market downstairs here. And very high quality vendors and talent down there, and it's not only been putting on their art, but also having it for sale. That has a big draw. We are having a car show in the Boys Grove parking lot. And then over the current plan is the Canal Basin Square, we're gonna have a big bouncy house, like big one. And petting zoo and face painting there. And so kind of be like kids zone, shopping zone, car show, up here be. So we're really kind of putting all our eggs in our basket of making a big event this year. Hopefully the weather holds out. First Saturday, December is kind of iffy, but there's also, we're encouraging other businesses to do their own specials or classes. We did a wreath making class with some materials last year. I think Scottsville Supply had some goats and Santa doing pictures one year. And then at the end of the night, there's a procession with Santa. We can't call it parade because we're not shutting down the street. And it's right at dark, so not really the best time to shut down the street. But so a small procession with Santa and the fire truck being delivered to Canal Basin Square, where we do a countdown for the trees to light. And the tavern's gonna be providing some hot chocolate and cookies down there. One of the churches will have some carolers down there to lead us along in some Christmas carols. And kids can visit with Santa, Santa's laugh and stuff like that.
It's gonna be great.
It's an all day event, basically, to answer one of your questions, 10 to 6. Just kind of 5 to 5:30, we're gonna have Santa down there after 6.
At 10 o'clock, the Tiger Tones, the chorus from the elementary school will be singing Christmas carols for about a half hour.
So, and then after the Tiger Tone sing, there's gonna be a meeting at the pavilion and with the Grinch. Kind of escaping in town, and their little kids will ensue chase, so watch out for that.
Yeah.
And then he's going to magically be apprehended at Bane's Coffee Shop, where they can do some story time. Then maybe have a procession with the kids up to the library for arts and crafts at the library. So
Yeah, library's gonna do something up there.
it's hard to keep track of it all, but it's a lot of fun.
Don't be arresting the Grinch.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I won't, not this year.
It's pretty
Do you want to
suspicious.
be the Grinch?
Been asked, you already did down.
We can get the mayor to dress up as the Hugo mayor.
I was the bee one year for Palm
So yeah,
They asked me to make sure the kids get across the street. to
Yeah.
Baines.
when you're going from Baines to the library, so it would be one street crossing there and walking alongside. I'm thinking around 11-ish or so, somewhere in there.
All right,
And I
any
think with the
questions?
arts market, we're gonna have, this parking lot's gonna be very full with visitors, just FYI,
Yeah.
it's usually very.
Any further questions for James? If not, we'll turn it over to Stevie. We'll scan up to.
Yep, okay, can I talk from here?
Yeah.
You can sit in this chair right here.
I'm good. Like James said, the holiday arts market, we have 10 vendors, which is really great. It's gonna be great, very good stuff. We had a really good concert with Laura Cortez and the dance cards. I think we're liking these concerts, right? I think it's been a boom to the community. People seem to really turn out for them. So the strategic planning is taking place in January, and we're gonna build that in as a resource for revenue and kind of keep it folky and Scottsville-y and, we're not gonna have like, Def Leppard.
Mm.
Maybe we will, I don't know. But we also have the play this weekend, Death Trap by Persimmon Tree Players. They say it's really funny, please come. And then in January, we're gonna take a little turn, and it's not gonna be a comedy. We're going to do a dramatic presentation. You may have seen the movie, but it's a play called Grace and Glory. And it's about aging and friendship, and it's really quite, and it's probably, at least since I've been in the first sort, other than the Mom's Journals, it's very sort of more dramatic than it is a comedy. I would hope that you'll all enjoy that one as well. With the loss of the Christmas radio show, we're trying to pull together, and on December 15th, we're going back to the 1940s, and we're gonna have an old-fashioned It's a Wonderful Life movie, and we're gonna have ushers and retro candy and popcorn, and I understand there's a special appearance by Clarence the Angel going to be at the movie that day. So, and we're gonna do a matinee. That is one thing that we have learned from the Courtney and her theater team, that this community supports matinees much more than evening performances. They seem to like to come out in the afternoon, early evening. And I know PTP is doing 2 of the 3 shows as matinees. We're gonna be doing the movie as a matinee. It just seems to fit. We'll see. And then, I don't know if you guys are, I don't want to crying, or I don't need any farewell presents, but this probably will be next to last meeting that I will be as president. But I'm gonna stay on the SCAN board, but I'm not gonna be an officer. And, I'll see you around town.
Okay.
I'm always around, so we're very excited about that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. James, can you think of anything? I can't
think that's the same set, so you've already done better than me.
Oh, no, you're good. You're good.
Have they selected a new president?
We are presenting the slate of officers at our board meeting. We only have one hat in the ring, and you all know Beth Clark. She was our treasurer. She has lots of experience. She ran the domestic violence women's board. She is the president of that board. She opened up this domestic violence shelter for women in Jacksonville, Florida. She's very well known. She knows her stuff. She's going to be much better at this than I am. And she made a difference down there. And we both love SCAN because it's art. It's not life and death. And when we were on boards before, it was pretty serious stuff. So she's gonna be great. She's gonna be great, I think.
Any questions for SCAN? All right, thank you for that report. ARB,
We do not meet this month.
okay,
I will say that, I guess more towards you, Doug Danzy approached me. He had a sign on his building a long time ago and asked about the process of putting it back up. I told him to approach you and kind of laid out the process for him. So he should be in the December meeting.
Okay, I'll follow up with that.
yeah, and Javier reported to me that he's sent a letter to the gentleman up the street with the really nice accounting firm sign in his front yard. So
and a reply?
Not yet, so.
But you did have the other one removed too, the one that, roofing one, I don't know if anybody ever saw it, it's down in, on Bird Street, so that was, they took that one down.
Mr. Briscoe,
On the planning commission front, we are continuing with the comprehensive plan. And I had the opportunity to, it's a good opportunity to be a message relayer from the council to the planning commission and from the planning commission to the council. Both back and forth, as you know, explaining the council's desire to have the process as fast as possible. From the planning commission, the desire to have it as thorough as possible. And the thoroughness is moving forward. We're going to want to have an opportunity to try to finish it this year. Is that correct to say, Javier?
Yeah.
So the goal is to try to finish the process, and as you all are aware, we're quickly running out of this year. So the process, so Lincoln has been tightening up the documents. We had a pretty thorough review again this last week, and there's been a couple deadlines of presentations that he's been making to try to finish the pieces, so to speak. So, Javier, what did I miss in terms of explaining that?
So we went over the final piece of the main body itself. I owe him a portion for the appendix, just summarizing the survey that we did in 2023. I updated that, Jack Maxwell's been helping me with the zoning maps, which has been a little bit tougher. We weren't left with any of the file formats for the zoning maps, so we're slowly getting through that. And then, we're looking at, what this week, finalizing photos also, from what I remember with the timeline.
So it's more technical things, you might say.
Yeah, it's kind of just piecing all the distinct parts together.
Do you, just to go back to you, from your closer working with Lincoln and knowing what you've heard from the council, wanting to see a finished document as soon as we can. Do you think it's reasonable that it's done by then?
I think so, like we showed the rough draft during the meeting. That's a big chunk there. And then we'll probably the last element will be that current and then future use map, because that takes so long. And I have no technical ability to do it, so thanks to Jack, it was right up his alley, help out with that, so.
No, thank you. And I'm sharing again from to the public, just the sense that there's both a thorough process that the planning commission has gone on. It's taken longer than we thought. At the same time, we have a highly skilled person in Lincoln being able to finish the project. On the other hand, the council has expressed the desire, and it's a right desire, to have the project done as soon as possible, because we would like to have the opportunity to review it in a timely fashion, and it's taken longer than I think expected, because we thought it would be done maybe some months ago. But we're hard to keep saying we're near the end, but we're near the end.
any questions for Mr. Briscoe? Mr. Heisen, what's going on?
With government services, we primarily worked on the CIP, capital improvement plan or project. And kind of clean that up a little bit, because there was a lot of maintenance involved in there that was not really capital improvement. So we just got to start on that. We'll probably be working on that the next month or two to get the capital improvement project, the 5-year plan. And then we looked a little bit at maintenance, especially winter maintenance projects that Jam could do. We worked with Javier and Simon at the Jam about some of the things that need to be done over the next 4 or 5 months, and he's already got started a lot of those things, so that's in the way. And we also started looking at there was some suggestions about some of the maintenance projects some of the maintenance tasks that could be contracted out. We haven't got that yet. I mean, there's a couple of areas that might free him up. And for example, say the trash or the Canal Basin Square, or a few other things that might you know. That the other people could do, quicker or, you know, and more accurately, or more pride. And then the last thing we never got to was, we're still working on the, policy and procedure for non-profits, and I'll kind of go over a little bit of that later on, but, that's still in the works too. We got to start on that. We got some late information from Almar, Chris and Justin. So that's what we did with government service. And I'm not sure if we'll meet next month or not, because we may, but I'm not sure how far we'll get with this thing. Scott's the way, he's really been involved with that. So.
You wanna drift into Parks and Recreation? while you're
Sure.
on the floor?
No, we didn't, we met a while back, we're gonna be later on this month, but, we're waiting on several issues, and, with Javier, with some of these things, but, parks are looking good. We still want to get some signs, put up on a few trails and markers, indicating, the degree of difficulty. We looked at maintenance issues on the park. And the big thing is, and again, we have to wait for the budget, I guess we'll see how that works with, the Canal Basin Square. We've taken out the Canal Basin Square, and that needs a lot of work, and that may need to be, some of that might be contracted out if we have, the money for that too, because some of those things, maybe beyond, or too much time for the jam to do. But, you know, it's much better, you know, all the parks are looking fairly decent, I think. So.
Yeah. I appreciate it. Any questions for Mr. Heisen? Ms. Morse.
Okay, before I report out, I just want to let you all know that I will not be able to make next Monday's meeting. I have a family emergency that calls me out of town and I won't be available. So, just for the record. I looked into the P card system, Chief, for your officers. If y'all recall, these are cards. Well, do you want to just give a brief statement, the P card system?
Well, part of the emergency preparedness process, we've been looking at an additional fuel reserve for emergency services vehicles here in the town for the police. P cards, P card is something that Albemarle had for many years. I think UVA uses them there now still. But basically what it is, it's council could set a limit, a threshold on a P card use for an officer, but it would enable our officers to have this card in cases of an emergency. If something were to happen in the town and they needed a piece of equipment or something and I wasn't available, or Javier wasn't available at the time that the event was happening, they would have to wait until we got him. And I think in cases of emergency or when the officer feels that they need to make a purchase, and it certainly would be within the guidelines that we would set, they would have an authorized set limit of what they could spend, $200, $500, whatever the council wanted to set for them. But I think as we move forward, Javier and I had a meeting with Gordon Sutton a 2 weeks ago, something like
Last
that.
Monday, Tuesday.
Something like that. And they're working through with us a gas reserve for police cars in the town. I don't know if you want, how much detail you want on it, but that's kind of where we're at right now. And the P cards is just another one of those steps in this progression of preparedness for the town.
So these are things that came up in the EPC meetings, and I think it's these are good steps forward to prepare the town for emergencies. So the fuel cash for our police officers in the event there is an emergency is one. And then I'd really like to get the officers some kind of cards, even if we can't get on the P card system immediately, if we can get them, you know, some type of cards for emergency use only, just through standard budgetary process. I think that would be really good. And there aren't that many officers. It doesn't have to be that high amount, but something, and it would only be used in case of an emergency. So I highly would advise the council to consider this, even, you know, as soon as possible, really. we are moving into the season of bad weather, potential, incidents, and traffic and closures and things like that. So I think it would behoove the town to have this in place for our officers. How would we go about that, Mr. Mayor? You draft a proposal and bring it for a vote? What do you suggest?
Need more exploration, I think, but a detailed version for us to look at. So this is how it's gonna work,
Policy.
yeah.
So Chief, maybe,
Couldn't you do like the town has a Visa card? Couldn't the police department have a Visa card?
well, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but we probably a P card that each officer would have one in his pocket.
yeah.
Why don't you just have one card and safe at the police station?
Well, I've got a card. We could do that. I mean, it's nothing that
As
says
long
we
as it's
can't do.
available, as long as you got, a card available for an officer.
Do you carry it on you? Yeah, but see, if he's not in the office and somebody else is on duty, then they don't have access to the chief's card. So what we're talking about is
Your
each,
card, put in the safe.
I think. I think, the key exploration to see if there's any advantages to those P cards, which I'm unfamiliar with. Rather than credit cards. The credit cards are pretty easy, you can set limits, and then we're always reconciling every month, so I think you can be
You
responsible.
certainly have a policy, but do you have to go get another card if you've already got a card in the name of the police department?
And I've already got the card. I mean, we could leave it in that.
Just ask the
safe.
bank for a duplicate card.
Yeah.
One that will stay in the office unless it's an emergency.
How much of a limit do we want to set on the officers?
I think the
That's
advantage of what they
something
were
you need to
talking about,
decide.
I think the advantage of what they were talking about too. If I remember correctly, is like traveling and stuff like that as well. They'll have
That's right.
the ability to pay for things on the road without
That's right.
taking that card out of the town, which I
Right.
guess you could do with all the
Right.
other parts. But
I mean, we trust our officers, right? If they each have one and they're only for emergencies, the chief has a policy for use, everybody understand it. I don't see the risk of getting cards for each officer.
Is it only good at the market? As in mainly good at the market?
No.
Anyway.
Anyway.
I think it's just a different name.
You have to provide, you have to have a guideline as to how much you can spend without your permission, whether it's in person or on the phone, and then you have to make sure they have a receipt.
That's true.
Well, the other thing about the credit cards, which are nice, is, let's say we are in an incident. Each officer, let's say, has a $300 limit, but something comes up and they need more. We could have a process in place whereby it's approved through some process where they can charge for XYZ that's necessary in that moment, right? So there is an advantage to potentially not having, limits. You can have a policy limit, but not necessarily a limit on the card, so that if there is a need, you could spend what you needed in the moment.
well, let's talk about it next month, I guess, or next meeting.
So do we want to check to see if we can get like 2 cards for the officers? So I think the limit on my card is $1,000, right? Or 2,000. I think mine's 2,000.
I think it's
2,000.
That's easy enough. I think we just need to know what limits and. If there's any policy council wants.
Yeah, I think the policy would be dictated by the
The chief should set the policy.
Right.
or the spending limits and what for.
Yeah.
But doesn't the town already have a credit card use policy?
Or we have
no?
financial policy, but it doesn't cover.
Doesn't use cover credit cards?
No, and then the closest what we do is we reconcile.
Understood.
You know, they can't use the coffee donuts.
Yeah, right. Okay,
Talk about that next work session.
I'll help
All
you
right,
out with detail.
The goal honestly should be, the goal honestly should be to get these approved if possible, if council is amenable before the end of the year as we move into snow season and whatnot. Okay, so P cards. Just out of curiosity, Javier, do we have the issue on a fiduciary agent for grants? Is that resolved? Yeah,
Yes, so,
who's our fiduciary agent?
so. I'm okay with it,
Okay,
so we can step into that process. I'm following up with, Jim, he's helping me out with, talking to Luvan as a second option. which
okay.
Might become a first option.
All right, but that's solidified, so any grants that move forward that need that fiduciary agent are guaranteed, we have a name
Yeah.
and
I have a
role
way.
to put in there,
I
okay,
have a way to, move forward.
good, okay. On E911, it's my understanding that the signs have been purchased, they have not arrived, correct? Okay, so the E911 signs have been ordered. The community flyer, we talked about sending that out and using some of the grant funds to cover communication to the general town residents, property owners, that these signs will be available on a first come, first served basis. So Jack, you have the flyer, correct?
Oh, you have it.
Javier has it? Okay,
Thank you,
any
Jack.
ETA on the send out of that?
My personal schedule is gonna get a little bit busy the next week, if I could shoot.
End of
for-
month?
Oh,
In
yeah.
December, end of month?
Yeah,
Okay, so end of month, those will go out, and hopefully we'll have some people come in
I think
and,
it also should be on the website and bulletin board now.
yeah, that's a
That's a good
good,
idea.
that's a great point, yeah,
Yeah, both.
yeah, thank you.
Can we share how it happens on the calendar?
And then on the ops plan, if you recall, we had a three-step process to try to get some information for the emergency operations plan. We've gone through 2 of the 3 steps. The third step, if we have a meeting, because I'll be out next week, will happen next week or the next time we meet. So hopefully we'll wrap that up and be able to start populating that flip chart that we would then get printed and have available for town staff, et cetera. Okay, so that's where we are.
Any questions? Since our events committee chairman is no longer with us, other than the Thanksgiving market, special market, when is that holiday?
it's, Saturday following Thanksgiving, so that'd be the fourth Saturday.
And then holiday happenings, those are the 2 main events coming up. I don't know of anything else at the moment.
You know, just for the agenda, I think that should just put events on every month to be a running item and just say around and anywhere, this is coming up. It's just so we're in the loop with that. Just like, not as a carryover, but just something like, is there anything going on that you know about?
Sure.
We could broadcast it to the town council and the public.
Why don't you, if you can, if it's not too much work, you could include a monthly printout of the calendar with all the events listed on the various dates, meetings.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Well,
An annual calendar?
Just a monthly calendar when you get
Right.
this, it'll have, it's November, so here's December's calendars and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It would actually be good to have anyone, like, say, in January, we got this one, this one, we know. But
Yeah.
That's a problem.
That's a good suggestion. Mr. Treasurer, you got anything for us?
Yeah, so I'm just gonna read off of our staff report. So Melanie has had the August financial statement prepared. I think she prepared it toward the end of last month and then is working, last week was working on the September. So we should have those for approval for next week, next Monday. That sets us up, we're a little bit behind, but it would set us up for a good first quarter review. So maybe I could give a short presentation next month and just kind of hit the broad strokes, so we have an update for the first 3 months of the fiscal calendar. Yeah, and then as you can tell, Jim isn't here today, he let me know last week, he'll attend a meeting next Monday. Can't remember if I put that in the email, I included it in the staff report. So any questions you might have this evening, please let me know, because I can pass them along to Jim to do some follow-up during the regular session for you guys.
Okay,
Anything else?
any questions for Javier on the treasurer's report?
The only thing I'd be interested in, Javier, is seeing the trend. Like, we're moving into a bit of a slow season. I mean, I know it's holiday season. But in general, how are the businesses doing? How's revenue doing for the town? Sort of, where are we tracking? I looked at, I think it was Charlottesville News. Their business revenue seems to be down in comparison to prior years, and I just wonder what the town, what the town looks like. I know the market has helped probably.
Yeah, I think we've been relatively strong and though we haven't drilled down into it. But usually the trick I do is just ask, hey, let's look at last year's meals tax and see where we're on trend. So we do slow down, but I haven't seen anything substantial that really.
Because town seems slower even when I'm just out and about now, which is not uncommon. It's sort of between holiday season and summer season and whatnot.
But maybe I put some graphs together now that gave me a little bit of direction for next week. And I could just trend out those tax amounts and then maybe put it against the line from last year.
Yeah,
That might capture.
yeah, year on year would be nice to
Yeah.
see. Yeah,
Just a line so you can see.
yeah. Okay, thank
Let
you.
me just say something about the farmer's market. I guess we ought to have a vote on it for $600 because we have to approve that, right? So we would need a vote to approve the sign, right?
Yes, it's out enough. We budgeted 250. It's out enough from our budget. We budgeted 250.
Oh, I thought it was $500.
600.
Okay. Okay, the other thing is, I don't know how we'll go about doing this, but I do think we need to start looking at, seeing if we can get bids for the farmer's market, I guess it looks like Hashi might be one of them, but.
Yeah.
It'd be good to get that started, and so we don't drag it on and start next May or April, or when the farmer's market starts. I think somebody can knock that out in a month. If we get a decent bid on something, so I don't know who's out there to do that, but.
It'd be good to do it in the off season, to your point.
But maybe we need to, take that up or vote on that or something to see if we have money available for that, or is there money available for the farmers market? That's good, we've been talking about that for months now, or not, some people talk about it for months.
Anything beyond what council budgeted, it would have to be a council decision.
Right.
So what I laid out last
Right.
month in that
I know, I
table
read it.
was the game plan we have with the players we got right now, or the budget we got. I feel like I would have to come back. I have to wrap up sending some information to Kachi. And then I think it would be prudent to get more than one
Oh,
opinion
definitely.
on those. So I don't think council would be able to even make an action until I do some research for you
Right,
guys.
sure,
But I talked to you last week
right,
with the same idea of like, let's
yeah,
look at a few bits around that farmer's market.
yeah, it'd be nice to have that wrapped up by let's say April or so.
I agree, off season would probably be the best. So we aren't now having another element of trying to work around a farmer's market.
And I guess we kind of decided that with the grant, and the work with Jan can't do it all, so, kind of break it up to what can be done by a contractor.
Yeah, so the chart I set out divided that pretty clearly.
Yeah.
Some of the figures changed when I walked it around. I realized some things he could work on. And then another possibility is think about this for possibility, but yeah, still kind of the arena I laid out for council again. It isn't a bad idea to try it for that grant because it's right up the alley, but it depends, I guess, on priority and budget needs. They haven't really fallen anywhere yet until I get those figures in.
Well, and to piggyback off of Bill's point, the farmer's market position, I see here that you're working on the draft. That timing should also be the same, because it'd be good to have a manager sooner than later to start planning for, what is it, April, when the market opens?
Yeah, because already in New Year's, he hit it on the nail. They're already planning for
The next season, yeah.
Are we gonna have a leadership discussion about that eventually, the management position?
I would
Or is it
think-
already, is there a movement in that field or?
Yeah, so we're looking for a new farmer's market manager. Unless there's something else.
No, that's what I was touching on, but I've had some people approach me about it. they'd be interested in it,
It
so.
would be great for you guys contact information to be. Worked out last month.
Okay, my report is rather brief, the my Scottsville Lions Club, which I remember, we gave out candy in our usual spot next to the entrance to the parking lot here, so, a lot of children, which was a lot of fun. We also did our annual project of, distributing dictionaries to all the third graders up at the elementary school, something we try to do every year. I was at the same, luncheon that the chief was at. We got to for all 3 sessions of lunch, and there's some really neat kids up there. They would, I know they did it to him too. They come up to you and they stick their hand out, want to shake your hand, say, "Hi, I'm so and so." Just real polite children. And I was a tour guide again this year for Twilight Tours, and we had a really nice turnout. I think we sold out, so that was a good fundraiser for the museum. And then, of course, Mr. Payne and I spent a very long day Tuesday standing on the hill, on the sidewalk outside the elementary school. But, we did, and I'm sure you did too. You got to see some people you hadn't seen for a long time. I saw some folks that I really didn't know still lived around here. It's been so long since I'd seen them. So it was a good day. I mean, it was a fun day, and maybe the county let us know how it turned out one day.
Yeah. While we're talking about that, let me just, say something if I could. I didn't campaign, and neither did Ron, and it was kind of fun. This is, to run for mayor, something that I've always wanted to do. At my age, I thought this was a good time to do it. And, I put some signs out and talked to people that approached me. I didn't approach anybody else until we got up to the elementary school. And I think, I don't think I'm gonna pick up 2 or 3 or 4 votes, so, this is my pretend mayor report here. I won't concede yet, but we'll see what happens with the official. I'll be wondering about the new council coming in. But, the one thing I did want to say is, if the vote had been 200 to 40, I would have been upset. But it's so close, it just proves that you can be in opposition and have a lot in common. Ron and I have it more in common than we do differences. And I noticed the newspaper and the TV, they wanted to find something to stir up. And we didn't let them do it.
I told the girl when she called me, I said, we're friends, and however it turns out, that's the way it turns out.
That's right.
And we'll still be friends.
That's right.
And I just keep thinking, well, does this mean that it either means that half of the population like each one of us equally, or half of the population dislikes us each other? So we'll just see how it turns out. We'll make the best of it, and we'll keep on from there.
But that's,
And,
I was so glad it was close, and the turnout was amazing.
that was, I had, since I've been, and since 2010, when I first started having to be elected to things, if you got 100 people out, it was really good. Usually it was around 80.
Boy, you got 59 last time, didn't you?
Well, the last time I was going against Charlotte Joyner. I got 80% of the vote. I got 80 and she got 20. So,
But that was the other reason, I thought, well, let's give people a choice.
but to get, 200, I mean, 230 or so people come out to vote in the town election. And obviously, they were coming to vote for the other things too, but at the same time, I didn't know we had that many registered voters in the town.
We do now.
But it was very encouraging.
And
It's like that question for that too.
if I can just say one more thing, I know this is a little bit farther down. When the official results come out and I'm shown that I wasn't, elected and Ron was re-elected, and we're looking for a town councilor, I will be open to accepting the position that Meredith vacated and fill out her term. So
if that's allowed, is that allowed?
Well, see, I don't know.
He's gonna find out if that's
I'll
allowed.
talk to you tomorrow about that. Because
Can you
Javier and I were talking about
Yeah.
it too, and we've got some thoughts about how that possibly could work.
Those guys,
So,
I don't know.
We've been trying to make sure we're not doing anything wrong.
Oh, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I thought it had to be posted and all of that stuff, yeah.
But I do want to, stay active with the town, even if that doesn't work out. But,
Yeah.
So,
At least I'm up to speed on that job.
I mean, maybe I would say this, well, first of all, I think it was, what you said was great, just about the two of you. Being able to. Be friends and run and everything, but the other part of it is, I mean, in the end, it's gonna come back to the council, so we will appoint, so it's good to know you're interested if that happens.
I'll give you a call tomorrow, tell you what I think might work.
All right.
All right,
Well, I hope good and, we'd like to be considered. Thank everybody.
okay.
That's not a
Well,
question.
I was gonna say too, if I stayed in this seat, and I would hope you would stay involved in town government.
Oh, yeah.
That you would, yeah, one way or the other.
One way or the other.
Well,
Send the question to Jim, since I think he's the most appropriate
Yeah,
expert to answer that, so, he has a heads up for next Monday.
Okay, I'll talk to you tomorrow, but it was a fun day, really.
Didn't feel like,
No, we lucked out and it could have been a nasty old.
it was a nice day.
Cold day, but town administrators report, you got some further that you wanna delve into over there?
Yeah, so you touched upon, most of the farmer's market items. Let's see, did that. Another question I had, which isn't immediately pressing, we talked about it, now that, the cycle's over. Jim and I presented last month or 2 months ago about, our sign ordinance. Short and sweet is it's out of date, and at some point it would be prudent to update it. Really, it's just to get a temperature sometime this winter about town council's interest in maybe revising it. And then my advice would be, you could use the winter for staff time to essentially line it up with Albemarle's sign ordinance code, because theirs is pretty well vetted. They responded to all those changes over the years that limited the authority you have on sign permits or on signs. And then I would advise, as we've done before, hold on to it until another time. We need to do a public notice, so we can just line them up and save a little bit of money for the town. The latest probably this fiscal year is the budget, but we could have something else that comes up that might need a public hearing. Other than that, the second one, and it was a big one, the Chevy Colorado is leaking a lot of gas. I stopped by Greg chatting, and he had a conversation about it becoming a liability issue. So we did a change on the fuel pump on it to kind of hold it floating around. I haven't looked at the exact details, but we haven't had any other costs in our maintenance budget, so we should be okay with that now. But I wanted to give you a heads up. It became a safety issue for somebody that, on a personal level, I very much like, but also a liability issue. So I got some decent advice, and the guys down at Tate's joked around about the truck, but got it fixed for us. So
Well, Melody, I thought brought that up after July 4th,
Yeah.
right?
she
So
was.
it's been out there
It
for a
really
while.
started looking bad. Him and Javier were talking with me down towards the Ferry Street. And I'm looking under the truck and I'm seeing drip, drip, drip. It wasn't drip. 5 minutes later, another drip. I mean, it was drip, 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 drip. I was like, is that gas? And the next thing you know, I mean, it's a puddle underneath the truck. And I'm like, that's not good. For
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
So, lessons learned other than just being careful about liability, it's just, we should seriously consider about CIP planning. We can avoid predicaments like this if we just kind of plan out a little bit. And then, on my side, maybe continue conversations about how to do, maintenance right. But I think we have the right team to, keep our equipment, well maintained right now. It seems to be an interest of staff members. Both.
Any questions for Javier? You want to delve also into item 3A?
Yeah, so, it's just following up on a request, Bill had from last month. So we included a draft, the revisions that Mr. Height prepared for September 9th, September 16th. I think if there's no, depending on whatever comments town council has, this should be pretty ready, if there aren't any changes for next month, to just include in the consent calendar.
You know, I just, you don't have to do it now, but I just think, you know, minutes are really important. And I'm on a couple committees and they just do exceptional minutes. So I do think that we need to look it over, you need to look it over and maybe you can go over sometimes how the process is for doing minutes. You know, from the time it, like say this minutes today. I guess you're gonna do it because Melody can't do it unless she's. I think it should, I feel like it should be somebody at the meeting to do it. And she could watch the video, but you know, so how that works, and then I was reading about how they're supposed to be. And I don't think any community follows that, but you're supposed to have a draft after 10 days. So 10 days from tonight, you're supposed to have a draft. I don't think anybody follows that, but and you're supposed to post it 7 days after it's approved. But my concern too is, and I think I mentioned this, is I do think minutes should be posted eventually. So you can go to the website and say, here's the minutes from, you know, September 10th or whatever. But anyway, it'd be good to know what your process is. You get when she's here and you get together the next day and just say, okay, let's do this. And then you read it over and then you said, anyway, we have a process with some of the committees that works really well. They just set it out in a way and we all just start responsible.
So it's a clerk responsibility.
Yeah, I know that.
Recently, and I think the work's shown, I've left a lot of that responsibility. Right. This is an example where I went back to an earlier thing where I'd double check it.
Right.
2 eyes is always better. And then just for the record, we talked about it previously, that's a state requirement.
Right.
Just a legal requirement.
Right.
That's different from
Right.
what council wants.
Yeah. Right. The other thing is that, you know.
Yeah, we weren't bound by that 10 days, 7 days, right? It was
So
for the state government.
At the end of the minutes, I think what's prepared by, but I've seen a couple of them that just attested by. But and I do think if they say, I think Molly was doing some minutes too. I don't know if she did it for the town council, but if anybody else is involved, I think it should be noted on the minutes that, you know, thereby these 2 people or these 3 people, and then approved by us. But I just think that ought to be transparent, you know, who did the minutes. And you know, and if you do, you know, your name should be on there too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
I just think the process is nobody likes doing that. I mean, that's the opinion on that.
I think it's just we use this as an opportunity in the last 2 weeks to like talk about us setting up the process.
Yeah.
Part of it is just proofreading on my side.
Yeah,
I think we'll get there.
I'll go through the sentiment ahead of time, but I'll do it. I do think they need to be clear sentences and, you know, grammatically correct and stuff like that. They're gonna be there for eternity, you know.
You have a point. It's a record of it.
That's all I want.
Anything else on that one? On board BZA nominations, we were talking earlier, Javier and I today about, you know, this vacancies have been around for a couple of years now. It's wouldn't hurt to not do anything until after the first year and let the new council have it.
Yeah.
Sounds reasonable.
That's a good idea.
Just, you know, and instead of worrying with that right now, we could say that, you know, at the first meeting in January, 15th would be a cutoff date for any more people interested in the BZA, and then the new council.
We got flexibility on that.
Yeah.
Okay, there's nothing happening, so
That's okay with y'all.
I think that's good.
We're doing this, you know, the interim appointment for Meredith's seat is, we have to have that completed by December 6th. December 6th.
When we do that.
So,
We have to have the appointment. Yeah,
45 days.
I would think so.
so
Will we know the end of the election by next week?
There's-
Because.
Registrar keeps telling us we'll know something by the end of, they're required by law to have it posted by the end of
That
the
would
week.
be good to know who's available, who else is available.
They're
Well,
supposed to
they-
have it 10
they-
days after the election,
Yeah.
it's supposed to be done.
They said that they are hoping to have it done by the end of this week,
Oh.
and then Ron's example is they're requiring next week.
Okay.
Are we talking both counties or one county with?
Both confirmed the first part,
Okay.
when I spoke to them, that they're looking at wrapping it up this week,
Good.
end of this week.
Is there any others? I'm sorry, you send us whatever you find out then, ahead
Oh,
of
yeah.
time, before the meeting anyway.
I asked them to send something, but I think I'll get it about the same
Yeah.
time as everyone.
So what we were discussing is if we, today is the, what, 12th? If we say, we see how this thing turns out, when we say anybody interested in filling this vacancy must put in their request by November 30th, and then we have a special meeting the first week of December, which would get us before the 6th, the deadline to having done it, and we can appoint somebody at that special meeting the first week of December.
This seems not special meeting, how that we just do it in our meeting.
Has it been that long since she, I thought it was last month, I guess.
Yeah,
No, it's been,
it'd be 45 days.
Is that what it is? Where you?
yeah.
It's October, October.
Yeah.
council meeting.
Seems like we should just be able to do it at our meeting. We have a closed session, I guess, we need it.
So we're gonna have to interview these
We
people.
don't have to.
Well, you can't just, if.
Well, actually, yeah, you're right.
If you're gonna have
Yeah.
somebody to fill a vacancy, you better interview them.
Yeah, because
Not our board of zoning field, but not also, yeah.
Well, we've talked about process and there's been people who come back and said, well, process wasn't followed and this and that.
Yeah,
We
So-
definitely need to follow a process.
yeah.
We've made it known that there's a vacancy, that needs to be filled on an interim basis, and then we're gonna do a cutoff date. And then we will have a special meeting and interview and select somebody at that special meeting.
Yeah, I think end of November sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
And so when we gotta want to decide on that special meeting now.
Yeah, well, let's, sometime the first week, like I say, cut off.
Week of January?
No,
December,
December, we have to do it.
December 6th
We have
is
to do
the
it by
date.
December 6th. So if we cut off the date for submitting your application on November 30th, then we can have a meeting and interviews and an election of the new person, appointment of the new person the next week between the 1st and the 5th
Okay.
of December, and we will comply with the 45-day rule.
One thing, I'll throw you a curveball, that entire time period, I'm out of the country.
So that's what we need to plan. Like,
I'm actually the second to the, like, third, fourth, fifth, second to the fifth one.
Well, we'll just have to be sure to council. Yeah, we'll just have to be sure to council.
Could you zoom in potentially?
No, yeah, I'll vote by Zoom.
I think you.
You have to be here for,
Yeah,
so. Since we only have 5 people on council right now, if you're here and you're here and you're here, that's a quorum.
That's four, but he won't be able to vote if he's eligible.
Well.
Yeah,
Let me talk to Eddie tomorrow and we'll see about it.
Again, it could be by then.
Flip a coin.
So, you wanna talk some more about the nonprofit?
Well, I'm just gonna, we never really got to that much, with the government service, because we've been dealing with so much on the capital improvement projects and maintenance. I only had 3 members there, so next time we'll do it, but I just wanna bring a couple points up, I met with Almaro about, and they gave me recommendation, I think I might have shared that.
yeah, you did. It was pretty extensive though.
But
It was pretty extensive. though.
extensive, yeah, and ours seems to be really simplified and.
Right.
And one of the things is, maybe we want to wait till the new town council is here, but there's a couple of points I want to just make that government services can talk about too a little bit. And we can talk further about this ourselves, but there needs to be 2 actions. The first is that we want to do we want to give money to do donations at all? And then the second, which specific agencies are we going to give to or which ones? So that's it. But the other question that came up, how broad can we make this? Which agencies can be considered? Because it could be just, taking care of kids, but there's other agencies out there like, Jack's thing and all that. And then we wanted, the other couple of big questions are how to determine who qualifies, how to communicate with them, like through email or just word of mouth. And then the last thing is how to select them. If we do it, say, you're gonna, $3,000, you wanna get about 3 ways, would you do it with an independent committee or would you do it with town council? But anyway, we can talk about that more, the next month or two. And, it's good to get government services, take on that, because they got some, you get a broad number of people, independent, looking at that.
Certainly agree with, keeping it simple and sort of what we do with the Lions Club, because we get to the fire department and, the leader dogs and all that stuff. We have a simple form that says name of the group. What do you do to serve the community? Where do you get most of your funding? And any other comments?
Yeah.
And then like the committee could go over any applications, come out with the top 3.
Yeah,
And then-
just
keep it
process,
simple.
but keep it simple. But now I just give $4 million to 45 places. It's
I know, their list,
it's overwhelming.
this is like,
It's overwhelming what they do, we can't even prepare with it.
all right, is there anything else?
Yeah, I just want to bring up one point to the
Yes, ma'am.
council, as we're talking about committees and things. I know that, I think you all decided when to have your annual meeting in January after there's new counselors. One thing that everybody's gonna have to consider is the committees that we have, the liaisons. Are those gonna be continued? Are some not gonna be continued? So something to put on
Yeah,
council's
that's-
radar
that's-
before that January meeting.
No, that's a tough one.
That's it.
If they do, people want to take something out, like.
Yeah, right.
Hope they do.
Right.
All right, well, then we will say we've done what we came here for. Thank you
Ta-da.
so much. Oh, yeah.